All right, welcome on the podcast, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin.
Yeah, it's good to finally, connect face to face. I know we've met like briefly. We've been in a call like a month ago, but it's good to be, doing a face to face, podcast recording.
Yeah, 100%. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So you're currently based in New York City, is that right?
Yeah, I just moved here like a
Yeah.
few weeks ago. So very new still, but happy to be here.
Yeah, man. How's that experience like? I know like New York City is a very special place for many people. So I want to hear like your, I guess, a bit of your moving process and how do you find New York City right now?
Yeah, for sure. So a little backstory. I'm originally from the Philadelphia, New Jersey area. I went to college around there and I lived there for about 5 years after college. And I had a bunch of friends there from high school and college, and it was good to live there for a bit, but I just kind of wanted to mix things up and honestly do a little bit of soul searching, like kind of outside of my comfort zone. So I went down to St. Petersburg, Florida for the last year,
Mhm.
and that's where I was before, like 2 weeks ago when I moved here. And uh I moved here because I realized when I was down in Florida, I kind of missed having like a community of people around me that I knew, even if it wasn't like that well. Having that sense of community is important. And New York is just a different animal when
Yeah.
it comes to a city to live in. Like the the energy you get when you walk around here is just different from any place I've ever been. So, both of those things kind of drew me here. Like I had a lot of friends moving here, and I did a visit here about like a month and a half ago to look for apartments, and the energy is just something that definitely drew me in.
Yeah, man, that's what I hear like from a lot of people who like either like visit New York City or live in New York City for the first time. They say it's like a completely different like world out there. So it's cool to hear about, your experience as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
it feels like everyone's doing something.
Mm.
So a little different than Florida. I mean, yeah, New York is just like the epicenter of the world.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, to give a, brief background to whoever's listening, could you kind of, I guess, go back like down, your childhood, your high school, your college experience, and how that kind of led you to like what you're currently working on and what you're pursuing?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
So all the way back to high school.
let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So, I mean, I went to um, a private high school. I went to public school all before then. Um, Up until high school, went to an all boys Catholic high school in South Jersey. Um, that led me to Swarthmore College, which is where I went to college at. Played soccer there all 4 years. It was kind of like my goal with going into Swarthmore was like it was the best school that I got into, and I was able to play soccer there,
Mhm.
which is something that I wanted to do in college. And I studied political science as my major, and then I double minored in psychology and Spanish. So after college, I was kind of like, what do I do? Like everyone does
Yeah, yeah,
after college.
yeah.
And I wound up landing a job in corporate philanthropy, like working with nonprofits, but working for a large telecommunications company. So that was a cool experience. It kind of fit with like poli sci a little bit,
Mhm.
like working with nonprofits. And it was a cool experience. I kind of finagled it because it was a company that I'd interned for when I was in college for a summer. And it had to do with technology. So I was like, you know what? I'm at one of the biggest tech companies in the country.
Mhm.
I need to double down on my tech skills. So I went to a coding boot camp at University of Penn, like after hours. So I did that part time while working. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with that either, but I knew I wanted to do something more technical. So I wound up at the company I'm at now, which we work in ad marketing data. So like targeting for ad campaigns. Um, and it's a good job, but it's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. Um, which I think is a story that a lot of people find themselves in after college. You know, you kind of go through a couple jobs and you're like, what am I actually doing here? Right. So that's why I kind of got online. Long story short, I realized that the corporate world, it's fine for some people, but it wasn't for me. Um, I'm still in my job now, but I decided at the start of this year, you know what? I'm finally going to put myself out there online. I had no clue what I was doing, but
Mhm.
I started putting out articles and then that turned into doing videos. And now I'm doing a daily video. So every single day for a whole year, I'm on day like 130 something at
Yeah.
this point. Um, they're not great, but we're getting there. And I'm loving the process of just like learning over time.
Yeah, I think what I really admire is that you were actively searching for skills that you might see useful in the future. Like you got into coding, and then that came as a benefits for your job, and now you're getting into content creation, which I know, maybe years down the line would also be really beneficial to you. So I think something I really admire about you is you're actively on the hunt to looking out for beneficial skills for the long term. And also like your consistency, man. Like I see all the videos you post every day. I'm like, wow, this man's on like day 150. Like what makes you so like consistent about, whatever you do? Because I know that's something that you don't have to train, it's not something that you're just like given, it's something that you have to train over and over like a muscle.
For sure. Yeah, I've talked to a couple people about this recently.
Hmm.
Um, I think I think it's tough, especially like in a creative sense, to be consistent over time because you're always like waiting for that spark, and then once you
Yeah.
have it, it feels great. You're flying, and then all of a sudden it fizzles out, and you're like, okay, where do I go from here?
Mm.
And I've had days like that, but I think maybe just like experiences that I've had in like school or sports growing up, like I've realized that no matter what you're trying to do, if you put in enough reps at that thing, it's it's gonna work out.
Hmm.
There's no way it can't work out. The only way it can't work out is if you stop.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what keeps me going. I kind of treat it like a game, like uh, doing it for the love of the game and not for like the end result, like enjoying the process. That's fun to me. Maybe it's not fun to everyone, I think, but uh, every video that I make, even if it's a bad one, and I realize that the next day, I'm like, oh, that one wasn't great. I know that that's going to give me motivation to make the next one a little bit better.
Yeah, man. And it seems like maybe like sports has played a big role in like I guess showing you the importance of putting in the reps. Like, I mean, I was doing music for so many years, and I guess music and sports or any other activity, when we do it long enough, it really like the benefits do really show. And I guess like once we have that foundation, it's like, oh, now we can apply this concept of consistency to any area we want to dive into. So I think you touched on that, a really fantastic point here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's like something that I say is that learning is just reps and reflection.
Yeah.
Um, and that's all it is, really. I think honestly, lately I've been lacking on the reflection piece. So I started
Mhm.
meditating again, like
Oh, that's sick.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like realized like, when's the last time I meditated? And I felt like I was in a rut a little bit. And instantly it's helped a lot. So it's something to take.
Yeah. Do you see yourself doing like content creation full time? Because I know like in your videos you've said that you've been balancing your job as well as content creation, but does like the thought of doing content creation full time ever came across to your mind?
For sure. I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Like my goal is waking up and getting to make something that is true to me and also can help other people and get paid to do it. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
that is the dream for me. I mean, right now I'm making $0 off of any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So like it truly is for the love of the game. But I have no doubts that it'll pay off in the end. And there will come a day where I can wake up and say that that is what I do.
Mhm. Yeah. I guess also like aside from consistency, are there like some like big principles or values that you kind of try to exemplify when you produce your content?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
honestly, the main thing is not being afraid to make something and put it out online.
Mm,
And I think that the underlying like belief of that is that I don't want to be someone who brings ideas or dreams or talents with me to the grave, which is like kind of morbid to think
mhm,
about, but it's true. I think a lot of people have things that they want to do, but for whatever reason, like life hits them and they have all these other responsibilities now. Like they have a job, they have maybe like a family and kids now,
mhm.
um, and they just don't have the time to pursue those things. But I want to try to inspire people to take the leap and bet on themselves because at the end of the day, we only have so much time here and you have to
Yeah.
make the most of it, you know?
Yeah, man. I guess like for someone, starting out on, the content space, whether they, be posting videos like you or writing or anything of the sort, what was like a really big challenge that you believe that most people would face initially, but something that you've gotten over that you'd be willing to share?
For sure. Man, this has been on my mind for the past like 24 or 36 hours
Oh, man.
is like,
Yeah.
so I did a whole rebrand a couple times, but the last one I did was like a big one. And I think I'm gonna rebrand again because I think that is
Yeah.
the single most difficult thing to figure out when you're first starting out is if you're not doing something already, right? Like if you're building a company and you're getting into content, like you have the company to talk about and
Yeah.
you like know what that's about. But if you're just like, okay, I'm gonna start my personal brand today, you have these interests. Maybe it's like self-improvement, and then within that, it's like health. Um, or maybe I don't know, it's about music, let's say,
Yeah.
to make it relevant. Like uh, after a few months, you realize maybe your brand isn't what you thought it was, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like your interests kind of change over time, and you find yourself talking about things that you didn't start out talking about. So that's been the biggest challenge, and that's why I've gone through like a couple of rebrands already because I'm still trying to figure out what
Yeah,
it
man.
is that I'm about, you know? So recently, I'm kind of thinking about even narrowing my focus down more now into just learning, like learning.
Mhm.
Everyone has like their thing, like be the blank guy, like Zach Pogrub's the obsession guy,
Yeah.
like David Perell is the writing guy, Harry Dry is the copywriting marketing
Yeah.
guy. Like have that one word associated with you. And honestly, the over the past like 36 hours, I think at least for right now, I would say it's learning. Um, that's a hard thing to come to. It takes months of like repetitions and getting
Yeah.
through content to figure that out.
Dude, man, I like what you just said in like the past 2 minutes. I relate to you so much because like our like a personal brand is so I guess especially when you're starting out, it's so fluid because we don't really know exactly that one thing we want to talk about. So it's so much experimentation, so much rebranding, and there's so many dead ends. But I think ultimately, for anyone starting out, this is what you have to go through because in order to really find your distinguishable voice, you have to experiment. Like I feel like there's not much a way around it unless you're like one of the lucky few who just magically stumble across, okay, this is what I want to talk about for the rest of my life. So I feel
Yeah,
like yeah, it's hard to come by, you gotta like try so many times. So I think I really resonate with what you said, and I'm sure people starting out would also resonate with that as well.
definitely. I have a question for you actually. I
Oh
don't know
man,
if
let's do it.
you're if you're willing to share this, but I saw a tweet you had today, this morning actually. How
Oh yeah, yeah.
can we talk about this? Is
Of
that
course,
like
man. This is a
okay?
free flowing conversation. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it was talking about how, I've done music my whole life, but I'm ready for something new. Do you know what that is yet? Or do you have an idea or a couple different ideas that you're gonna try out?
Yeah, man. Like I think maybe you can relate to this, but when we go through seasons of life, we have like a really specific thing we want to focus on. And when that season is kind of up, we're kind of left in like some exploratory phase. where we're just trying different things, reading different things, and not really sure what we want to do. And I think until recently, I've been meeting like a lot of people from tech, and like something I've realized over time is that I've slowly become like more allured to the idea of into like the technology sector. So I think that's something that I might look deeper into the future. So I think it's an exciting time. And I'm sure like have you ever had like a similar like season of life where you're exploring and you've kind of come across something?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the the last year or so, probably like coming across the whole content game, and
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, you have, I mean, so much time in your journey to figure things
Yeah.
out. Like going through a period where you kind of don't know what's going on and you're just trying things out, I think is the only way to figure out like one, what you don't want to do, and then that will lead you to what you actually want to do.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, so exploratory phases, that's inevitable. So just putting that out there. Yeah, I guess when people are like starting content creation and they're deciding, do I want to post on X or Twitter, or do I want to be more video focused on like YouTube or Instagram? Like how would like you've been trying different platforms, so I think you could have some like experience with that. But how do each of those like platforms differ, and like what do you find yourself most included towards?
yeah, so I'm mainly on, I mean, YouTube. Obviously, I'm doing the daily videos there,
Yeah.
but I do go on Twitter quite a bit. I see Twitter as like a testing ground for ideas. Like you kind of throw
Mhm.
it at the wall and then see what sticks, and then anything that does stick, you can then double down on and make it into either like a larger post, a newsletter, or a YouTube video.
Mhm.
Um, that's kind of my approach. People go on Instagram. I mean, people can grow pretty quickly with like Instagram Reels and everything. Um, my theory though behind this is that if there's any platform to be on, well, one, you should play to your strengths. If you're not good on video, either get good on video or do writing.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to get on video, even if you're not great at it, YouTube is the spot to be. It's
Mhm.
like the number one platform, because I saw a crazy stat the other day that like um it was in a Colin and Samir video. I don't know if you've
Oh
watched
yeah,
them.
yeah. They're really big
Um
on YouTube. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're saying how YouTube now is above Netflix in percentage of how many people watch on connected TVs, which is
Oh wow.
nuts.
Yeah.
Um, so that is like one facet of it. Number two is that all of these other platforms that do anything with video, like Twitter does a little bit of video. Elon's
Mhm.
trying to like double down on it right now.
Yeah.
Um, Instagram is obviously vertical videos along with TikTok, but they've done short form, but they don't have long form horizontal. And
Mhm.
everyone's trying to get there, but YouTube has already been doing that for so long.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is an advantage is because it's so much easier to place ads on horizontal long form content than on short form content. Like the ad share revenue or the ad rev share for YouTube is so much more
Mhm.
for YouTube than it is for any other platform. So like if you're thinking about it from a monetary standpoint, um, the long term game is YouTube. Like
Mm.
that's the answer.
Yeah, that's a really good observation because, you know, I think long forms are really good medium to really build a genuine connection with your audience. Because I feel like if you do like a short form video, for example, it's only like, what, like 10, 15 seconds, and you kind of have to like, I guess, edit it or like kind of compile it in a way that's less authentic to say because you're trying to like go for the algorithm. But I feel like for YouTube, it's like one of those few platforms where you can actually just, straight up one-on-one talk to people unscripted, like what you're doing. So I think, yeah, I think there's a really big chance that, YouTube's gonna be, continuing to be, I guess, the forefront of so much media that we see today. So I think that's a good observation.
For sure. Yeah. Honestly, to that point, I've had people talk like that I talk to regularly, like who are also doing the creator thing. And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, I put your videos on, and it's like we're just hanging out like in the room. I'm like
Hey,
doing
that's
something
sick.
else.
Yeah.
So that's an advantage. Then it kind of just keeps playing and playing. So more watch time. And it's searchable too. That's another point I forgot to
Oh yeah.
mention.
Yeah.
There's no other platform where you can search like YouTube, like how to do this, how to do that.
Hmm.
Um, Instagram, TikTok, you can't really do that on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and you also said that I think we talked that you joined Zach Pogrom's like community group for
Yeah.
doing these video series, I guess starting from like January 1st of this year. So like what benefits or what was your experience like, joining a creator-minded community group? Like did it help with, meeting other like-minded people doing the same thing? Or like did you find it beneficial at all?
Yeah, 100%. So I was in the first cohort of that. There've been two so far.
Hmm.
So the PR30 group, press record 30 days of
Yeah.
just getting on camera and figuring out talking on video.
Hmm.
And man, I mean, the amount of the amount of growth that I had in that period, and that's kind of like what sprung me to do the daily videos for a full year because I saw how much I went from on day one to day 30
Hmm.
that I just kept them rolling because I just think one, what we just talked about, growing an audience, long form video is the key to building that trust. But then two, it's a nice format to put your ideas out there in. And to your point too, it was very cool to meet other people doing it because I
Yeah.
didn't know anyone else doing
Hmm.
this stuff. So that was nice to connect people. I still talk to people from both groups now, like to this day. So
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know like something that I'm really adamant about is like the value of sharing yourself online and putting yourself online. Because I feel like you meet so many people you otherwise wouldn't have met by just putting stuff out there and just trying to be interesting. And I think I asked this the same question in a previous podcast episode, but what was like the most spontaneous or the most serendipitous thing that happened to you from posting online?
yeah, man, I would say honestly, the first podcast that I went on,
Yeah.
Bryant Ferrati's podcast, he was,
Oh yeah, yeah.
do you know him?
I've seen his name on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a really good dude. He was connected with me through this guy called Brian Narcisse. Be nice, he goes by.
Mhm.
Um, he he and I got connected because he actually started the challenge, Zach's challenge, like early, like I did.
Oh,
And he had connected me to Bryant. It's confusing because I'm Ryan Bryant and then Brian.
yeah.
But uh, I talked with Bryant on the phone and he was like, yeah, do you want to hop on the pod? And on our first phone call, I kind of convinced him to do the second cohort of the challenge. So he joined the cohort. Um, I kind of like inspired him to do it. And then he got me on his pod. That was the first pod I ever did.
Oh, that's
And
sick, man.
all three of us talk now like once a week on a call to just like chit chat, like see what everyone's up to and like exchange ideas. So that has been the coolest thing by far so far.
Wow, dude, that's sick, man. It's just so cool to hear people's stories of how like their lives just changed because they just started posting online. So it's just
Yeah.
cool following on people's stories. Yeah, I think what are some of the big skills of content creation? I know we've briefly mentioned, like putting yourself on video, writing. Are there any other skills that people should keep in mind of?
Hmm. Yeah. Writing, putting yourself out there on video. I think it's like in a way, it's kind of a transformational journey into the self. Like,
Mm,
aside from any skills, you're figuring yourself out throughout the whole process of doing it.
yeah.
It kind of goes back to what we were saying about finding what your brand is about. Like that's something, if you think about this, every person online, like every creator, kind of had to go through that same process at one point of figuring
Hmm.
out what they're about, how can they help other people, like what value can they provide, and what's something they enjoy doing. like within all that. And like that, going through that and doing it publicly, I think builds a lot of self-confidence and just like overall, like you feel like you're on a journey in life. Like it feels like you're on a mission, you know? Um, it's often tough, especially in like a 9 to 5 job. You feel like you get stuck. You're like not really working towards anything, but the creation stuff, it's all you. Like it's anything you're interested in.
Yeah.
And whatever medium you're choosing to put it out, whether it's writing or video, it's like a journey into your own brain and you're writing your own story.
Yeah. Oh, that's really like well put. It's like a self-transformation journey. I think that's how we could describe, putting yourself out there. And it's like, I guess the fast track to doing so because you're forcing yourself to post online rather than, maybe like procrastinating or, skipping it off. So you're actually doing, the groundwork of, day-to-day reps. I'm going to figure out what I can uniquely provide. So I think that's a nice point.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's there for people to see too, which I think is the coolest part. Like
Yeah, yeah.
anyone like 20 years from now, people are going to go back onto your maybe like they'll stumble across this podcast, right? And they'll be like, what was Justin up to 20 years ago now? And like this will be there, which is the
Yeah, yeah.
coolest thing.
Yeah, you can see the origin story of every single creator that started out. You go to any big YouTuber right now, like just go to their oldest, filter, and then you can see the first video they posted and see the natural progression year after year. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there like some favorite videos that you posted, from your humongous 150, streak?
Yeah, I would say the one that comes to mind, well, two. The one where I got a new laptop. I don't know if you've seen that one. It was I think it's called like how to edit faster. If you want to edit faster,
Mhm.
watch this, something along those lines. Um, because it was the first like Casey Neistat-esque video that I
Mhm.
tried to make. And I did like a voiceover in the beginning, like like an accent. Like I really put myself out there.
Yeah.
And it was very impromptu. I was just like the night before I was like, dude, my computer sucks. Like I need a new laptop because I had an old one and my computer was really slow to edit. So the
Mhm.
next day I was like, you know what? Let me go get a new laptop, but let me make it into like a story. And I was ripping through Casey Neistat videos at the time, and I still kind of am. But it was cool to just like try that out on a given day. Like wake up, all right, I'm gonna make a Casey Neistat-esque vlog video around getting this new laptop,
Yeah.
you know. So that one was fun. And then the one right after that, the next day, it's like a it's like a very dark shot in the beginning, and there's a red light coming out of a door. And I kind of like walk towards the door slowly. It's like a horror scene almost. And I open the door and this red light kind of like consumes me. And then it it flash forwards to or flashbacks to my first ever video. And it's like me
Mhm.
on camera, like, hey, like I'm just
Hey,
starting
yeah.
out. And it's like a motivational video after that. Those are my two favorite for sure.
Nice. Oh, by the way, have you seen Casey Neistat in the streets of New York yet?
Not yet, not
Oh, not
yet.
yet.
Not
Let
yet. I'm
yeah, let,
sure I will soon.
yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think something that I'm really curious about because you post consistent day-to-day 150 videos. Do you have like a content system behind this? Like I know some people have like I don't know, a whole Notion dashboard of ideas just they list out and then they just follow through. Or do those ideas come spontaneously to you? Like where do you kind of lean towards?
Yeah, man. This is besides the branding thing, this is the second top thing on my mind right now
Oh,
because
yeah.
I've only really done spontaneous videos up until this point. Like I don't really schedule anything out. Sometimes I have an idea for a video and I'm like, oh, I should make that and I'll write it down. Um, but over the last few weeks, I've been trying to come up with a system where one, I can get like a couple days ahead, so I don't have to like film and edit on the same day if I
Mm,
need to. Uh, but the other thing is like being a little bit more tactical about like the titles that I'm choosing. Like
mm,
I want everything to be true to me, but I want it to be things that people want to watch, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of the game. So I've been doing some research on YouTubers that I watch and picking out like their top videos and seeing like, how would I approach that if I made that? Like not even watching the video, just saying like that's the title, that's the thumbnail. How would that look on my channel if I did it my way? So
yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do. I don't really have like a good system yet. I'm trying things in Notion, like a table view, but
yeah, yeah.
it's tough to like plan the creative stuff, but I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah, I think speaking of YouTube, I think someone said that 50% of your YouTube's like success is based on two things, your title and your thumbnail. So I think that itself takes so much experimentation, like to manipulate words in like a good way to like make your video pop up. It's a whole little game over there.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a game. It's all a
Yeah,
game. I even saw, I forget who it was.
yeah.
Maybe it was a Colin Samir video, or it was like it might have been even like Mr. Beast. And they
Mhm.
were like, I always have to remind myself every like month that the title and thumbnail are the most important thing.
Yeah. It's easy to
Like,
forget. Yeah.
yeah, it's so because you get so caught up in like the video, but like if no
Yeah.
one clicks on it, then no one watches, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think another point you touched on is, how do I balance between being like my true self on camera versus how do I like optimize my videos towards the viewers? I feel like it's like a tricky, balance beam, because sometimes if we try to show our true selves, it might not get a lot of views, but maybe sometimes if we pertain too much to the audience, that might get a lot of views, but we're not really being our true selves. So like how have you tried to like navigate between those two opposite spectrums?
Yeah, that's a great question because authenticity is a huge topic right now, and
Yeah.
like I've struggled with this myself because sometimes you want to make something in a certain way, and it's not necessarily something that everyone's gonna like or
Mhm.
like everyone's even gonna click on because you want it to look a certain way. But I think I think I made a video about this last week where I was talking about like losing followers or losing subscribers,
Mm,
how it's actually a good thing because even though it feels like, oh, I'm going in the wrong direction, like someone unsubscribed, they didn't like what I had to say. It's actually a good thing because you want people following you or subscribing to your channel that actually vibe with you and they actually watch and
yeah.
believe what you're saying. Like you don't want someone just like click subscribe and then they never watch you again. Like it's the whole like true 1,000 true fans argument. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you want a lot of eyeballs on your stuff and you want numbers for like monetization and all of that, but um, at the end of the day, it's about making stuff that's true to you. And if people aren't gonna like it, whatever, you kind of have to have that integrity, I guess, behind your work and say, I made this because I wanted to make it and I think it could help someone. And if everyone doesn't agree with that, then that's fine.
Yeah. This actually segues into a really important topic because I feel like in terms of like whether or not we want to make a living doing content creation, it's like I feel like some people who do make a living from doing this full time, they have to be more aware of pertaining to like what the audience wants, or else they're not gonna get paid. So I feel like people doing content creation full time have a much bigger pressure to try to more like create things for the audience rather than for their true selves. So I'm curious, like, with your 9 to 5 and with the content creation you do on the side, like what does your day to day look like? Because I know people who maybe have like regular jobs who want to get into like these side hobbies, these side hustles. What can they do to like make that time and allocate that time to really dive deep into like that side hobby?
That's a that's a great question that I think isn't talked about enough
Mhm.
because there are tons of people trying to do something on the side outside of their work to like
Yeah,
make that their full time.
yeah,
But it is a struggle to find time to do it. Even this past week, I wasn't I haven't been like on my normal routine since getting here because I like had half an apartment like
yeah.
doing all this stuff to get it and I've just been like out of whack. But um the thing that has helped me the most out of anything, like when I'm truly like just dialed in, is when I'm waking up at 5 a.m. I'm working on this stuff from 5 to like right around 9,
Wow.
going for like a quick walk and then starting my day job. And
Mhm.
then whatever happens at night happens at night. Like if I don't work on anything, I've already put in 3 to 4 hours already.
Yeah.
But starting your day with that deep work and like really figuring out the ones and twos of like where you're headed with your content, um, with a fresh mind too, and you have that energy, there's nothing greater than that. Because I've tried to do it after work, but you don't have that same spark. You don't
Oh
have that
yeah,
same
yeah,
energy. You've
yeah.
had
Totally,
like
yeah.
5 meetings, like a couple tasks to do, and then you're like, all right, like, I'm pretty tired now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah. So waking up early is my if you can do it, like if you don't have other responsibilities, I would say that's like the key for me personally.
Yeah, that's so important. I think it's like a concept of like eating the frog first thing in the morning. You want to like do the most important thing first thing in the morning, just get it out of the way, and then do that over time, and you have, a consistent like streak that goes on for, days, weeks, months. Yeah, and I relate to your experience because sometimes I would carry the work past school back in high school, and I'll be so tired, and I just couldn't like muster out the energy to do so. So I think, doing it first thing in the morning is so important, especially if that's something that's important to you.
Definitely. If it's important enough, you'll make time. That's my theory,
Yeah, but yeah, well, what drives you to get up every day now? Is it like because of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, uh it's trying to figure this whole thing out, to be honest.
Hmm.
Some like I'll go through stretches where I am still doing the stuff. Like I'm still making a video a day. I'm still writing my newsletter every week, or I'm still on Twitter a little bit. But every once in a while, I'll have a period of like pretty extreme work where
Mm.
I'll stop watching like Netflix. I'll only consume like podcasts or like YouTube videos
Mm.
of something I'm trying to learn. And that's kind of what this past week has been for me. I was like, you know what, I've had enough.
Yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
set everything else aside and do this thing. Um, and that really helps me a lot to like fully dial in for a set period of time. That's I think it's like extreme, like I said, like I don't think it's for everyone, but it works for me. So
Hmm.
that's all I
Oh,
can that's
yeah.
all I know.
Yeah. What's been your experience building an email newsletter? I know like I've just started, so I want to hear from people who've, been doing it, have some
Yeah.
like experience doing it. Yeah.
I would say my experience is limited. I mean, I've done
Hmm.
one a week for the whole year so far, pretty much. I have only like friends and family and a few people online that I've met that subscribe to my newsletter at this point. It's I think it's one of those things that it's hard to grow separately because it's not really like part of your social media accounts. Like it's kind of like a separate website. You have to drive traffic there.
Yeah.
Um, Especially now it's tough because like on Twitter, all the external links kind of get doxed. Like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
any like I don't post my YouTube links over there because I feel like it shadow bans my account for a little bit after. And the same thing with newsletter links and stuff. So it's tough to like get people over there. I
Hmm.
know things like Substack help people because there's like recommendations you can put on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's something that I still haven't quite figured out. If I'm completely transparent, like I haven't. I like writing it; it's fun. I'm still trying to figure out like what I'm writing about alongside my brand, but
Yeah.
uh it's it's nice in a way though to like kind of have one long form piece of writing once a week like locked
Yeah.
in. That's the best part for me.
Yeah. I guess for like a beginner who's not really sure what the word like traffic means, like could you briefly
Yeah,
explain that? Because I know it
for
took me
sure.
a while to really figure like, oh, what this is actually mean, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest way to put it is people visiting your site and
Hmm.
clicking on things within your site. Um, it's easy on Twitter to get traffic if you just hit the replies hard and you start posting things and people
Hmm.
repost them and bookmark. But when you have an external site, the only way people are going to find that is if you have like good SEO, like search engine optimization,
Hmm.
and the keywords on your website are things that people are searching for and they come up in like Google. Um, that's tough to do just alone. So you kind of have to have your social accounts push people towards your website.
Hmm.
Um, like there's a thing called the flywheel of, getting all of your social accounts to kind of push towards your longer form stuff. And then your longer form stuff also pushes towards your newsletter and products. Like it's like a big wheel.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I haven't quite figured it out. I mean, like Justin Welsh talks about it a lot. Um, he's like the Saturday Solopreneur newsletter guy. Um, yeah, that's a topic of something I'm trying to learn about more, but traffic is tough because you have to give people a reason to click on your stuff, and that's not the easiest thing.
Yeah. And that goes back to, experimenting and knowing what you can uniquely provide for a
Right.
personal brand. Yeah.
Yep.
Are there like any like books you've been reading or would recommend? Like I know it's always cool to, dive into like different, domains of knowledge. So do you have any like books that you've been reading that you enjoy?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have this one right here. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
it's just Ray Bradbury, The Illustrated Man.
Oh man, he's
Just
an amazing
because,
author.
yeah, I
Um,
haven't read much of him to be honest, but someone posted something about this and it's a bunch of short stories that are contained within like a larger story.
mhm.
So they're quick. Like I can read one of these a night and I can kind of like, get through them quickly. And I'm trying to learn about storytelling, so that's kind of why I'm reading these,
Oh, yeah.
just to kind of see how he approaches it. He's like pretty prolific in that. Um, aside from this book, though, I would say um, philosophically, the Kybalion. I don't know how to actually say that. The Kybalion. Have you heard of that?
Oh, is it like the Kybalion?
Yeah, it's like an
Yeah, yeah.
Illuminati symbol
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
front. It
yeah.
looks like.
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, that's a short book, but pretty
Hmm.
deep topics.
Ooh.
If you're into like philosophical type stuff, like it's a great book. Um, I've read it 1.5 times now over the past
Hmm.
year. Um, I know like Danko talks a lot about that. That kind of like helped him frame a lot of stuff, I think. Uh, one of my favorite books of all time though is Kurt Vonnegut, Cat's Cradle, which is like a
Ooh.
fiction book.
Uh-huh.
A lot of these, two or three of these are fiction, I guess, but people don't talk about fiction books on
Yeah, yeah.
like our
It seems
space,
so. Yeah, yeah.
like it's all like self-improvement books. But I think there's something to be said. Like, even though they're fiction, there's a lot of facts in them. Like, they're based in facts about the
Yeah.
world.
Like, mhm.
Um, and it's cool to see. I always appreciate people that take these ideas and like common things that people experience. Um, like in Cat's Cradle, they're talking about like the facade of like politics and religion and like
Ooh.
how like people should kind of question that uh, to put it very briefly. But
Yeah.
like he takes that idea and then puts it into like an actual story with characters that are going through like wrestling with different ideas about those topics. Like that's like a different level to me. Like we all talk about like in our content about the thing itself, but they're like creating a whole world around that thing in each book.
Mm.
Like that's crazy to be able to conceive that, you know.
Yeah, and I guess it also shows like how more connected than we previously thought. Like these maybe seemingly far-reaching domains are. Like it's all connected. And I was watching this podcast episode with Sean Purry and David Perell, and he was saying like if you want to be a good writer, don't study writing, study comedy, study fiction. Like that's where you can derive these like I guess so-called like basic principles and actually apply them in a more practical and more fundamental manner. So like yeah, reading fiction is great. I have yet to dive much into it since like I don't know elementary school, but something to
For
worth
sure.
looking
Dude,
into.
it's crazy you mentioned that podcast because I legitimately yesterday I watched the Harry Dry David Perell
Oh, dude, that's
episode.
such a good episode.
Banger, absolute
It's a
banger.
banger.
And the next episode that got queued up was the Sean Purry one, and I
Oh
saved
yeah,
it to watch later, but I just haven't had a chance in the past day to watch it. But I'm definitely gonna watch it now, like next.
dude. I think the biggest lesson I take taken away from that is like there's two like the best way to build a personal brand is to like one know what emotion you want your audience to convey to like feel when they look at your stuff, and then two, how do you like consistently deliver that like over time, and that's how you build like the trust and the credibility. So I think that was a pretty like eye-opening insight from Sean.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, like thinking back, he's one of the reasons why I started on this journey
Oh wow,
too.
no way.
Because I
Yeah.
remember I was on a walk when I was living in Florida. I was on a walk like by the bay, and I remember this distinctly because I was listening to it was a solo pod on the My First Million podcast.
Oh, great pod by the way.
And yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it was just him. But he was talking about the learn, distill, share method and like how
Mm.
he would approach that. Like if he didn't have an authority on anything, he would just pick something he's interested in, learn it, distill down the lessons, and then share it. And then eventually you can kind of like craft services based on that. And I just distinctly remember that one episode being like, why am I not doing this? I'm already interested in a couple of different things. Why don't I just start, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we seem to have like a lot of like role models in this space, but I think for someone who wants to like learn more about this type of stuff, like who can we point to? I know we mentioned Sean Purry, David Perell, Justin Welsh. Like, are there any others that you particularly like follow?
Yeah, I would say Danco for sure
Oh yeah,
is a
Dango. Yeah.
big inspiration because he doesn't do anything like flashy is what I appreciate about him.
Mhm.
Like he's not the typical YouTuber when you think of a YouTuber.
Yeah.
You think of like high energy, like all these animations popping up, but he literally just writes his newsletter and then kind of just pulls it up and like says it on camera in a very serious way.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just it's very like bare bones. Obviously his like lighting setup has gotten a little bit better and all that stuff, but it's just about what he's saying and how he's delivering it, but it doesn't like fit the mold of YouTuber, which I like.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he just like pulls up like a script, like rants out for 50 minutes straight and like
Yeah.
here's a video, you know?
Yeah. And his like philosophy around like digital monetization, like that something I've kind of like studied of his just because
Mm.
I'm trying to do that too, you know.
Yeah. I guess like a cool question, but if you had like unlimited money, what would you invest it in? Like how would your life change? Like what would you be doing? Would you still be like doing this just as a fun way to express yourself?
Dude, that is a good question.
Yeah.
I I would say yes. I don't know if I would be doing it in the same exact way as I am now because I'd have more resources available.
Yeah.
Like you'd have access to people and to things that I just don't have right now. Um, the thing that I ultimately like want to do with this like big reaching goal is to have an have an influence on like the way we educate in the future. If I had
Mm.
like all the money in the world, that's what I would spend time thinking about because like it's it's like giving to other people feels better than like doing something yourself, like when you give to someone else. And if you give the gift of learning to people, they can do anything with that. It's
Yeah.
crazy, dude. It's crazy. I was watching a podcast about the founder of Duolingo, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
have you heard of him before?
I've actually used the app several times.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
nice.
it's
So
cool
you
app.
know firsthand. He's
Yeah.
from Guatemala, and his whole thing was like he wanted to
Uh,
bring like help people in South America get um higher paying jobs and like better quality of life. And he realized that learning another language like English would help them do that more than like learning math or like 'cause there's other steps involved.
mhm.
So that's kind of why he like made the app. Um, and it was cool to see because I'm like thinking about learning now these past couple of days, and um, if I were to do anything in the future, like if I do come across a good bit of money, like that would feel good for me to do, and it's just like the right thing to do, I think, for me personally.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. I think bringing the gift of education is just one of the best gifts you can really give to like a large population. So that's an amazing like mission out there.
Yeah, it's just because like I've had so many good
Yeah.
teachers in my life, I think, and it's
Hmm.
like if I can be that person for someone else, then that would feel really good.
Yeah. I guess we can talk a little bit more about like your life story, but like what was something that like maybe unconventional that you did that led to outsized returns maybe like 3, 5 years later? Was there any like thing you could think of?
Hmm. I've never been asked that before.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of like going out of my wheelhouse with long-term benefits. I think honestly, deciding to continue learning Spanish over time has helped me
Oh.
a lot because I like I learned it throughout high school
Yeah.
and I started taking like basic classes in college, and it was always something I was interested in. I didn't want to like major in it necessarily, but
Yeah.
I kind of just stuck with it, and it allowed me the opportunity to go abroad to Madrid for a semester.
Oh, that's sick, man.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was amazing, like amazing time there. But
Yeah.
even like long term now, my Spanish has definitely fallen off over time because I'm just not practicing enough.
Hmm.
But like I listen to Spanish music, I like watch some shows in Spanish, and just being able to like communicate with people and like appreciate another culture that like I mean I'm not like Hispanic at all myself, but like I know more about their culture from living over in Madrid and like talking to people now from different Spanish speaking countries. Like that has been something I'm like proud of for doing, and I'm really happy that I just stuck with it because it's given me a lot of benefits.
Yeah. It seems like studying abroad is such a big, awesome opportunity to do so in college. Yeah, I guess like speaking on the topic of college, like is there like something that you believe students should do in college to like really maximize their learning and maximize their time while they're in this, like I guess 4 years, once in a lifetime experience?
Yeah, take like whatever the most random classes you're like, that would be interesting. Take it.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't fit your major, like you
Mhm.
can fit it in probably. Like
Yeah.
there's some classes that I took that were like one class was on like Tolkien and Pullman, like Lord of the Rings and
Yo.
like like
That's so
like
cool. Yeah.
the Golden Compass, like a crazy class. We watched the movies in class a lot of time. We like talk about it. And like to be honest, I wasn't the most engaged in every class that I was in college, but just like being a part of something like that is cool in itself. Like to say you've done that, and
Mm.
you do learn a lot in those types of classes. Like maybe it's not the most relevant info for like your major,
Yeah.
but it's a cool experience to get out of your comfort zone and like learn about something just random, you know?
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I
Yeah.
still got 3 more years to roll, so I'll try
Is
to
there
find.
any that come to mind and you've seen so far?
Oh, okay. I came in as a music major, but I found some like geography courses that were interesting, and now like I'm considering doing that as a major. So like you never know where it takes you. You know, it's more like just following your interests and just like riding along that wave. So
Yeah, totally. Because like even if you major in something, you're probably gonna wind up in a totally different career
yeah,
path
that's the thing.
anyway.
It's like, yeah,
That's the like what's the percentage of people that actually stay in their field? Probably not that high. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, it's pretty interesting because a lot of people study like completely different things. Like you might study in chemistry, and then the next thing you know, you're in the tech job, and it's like you just don't know, you know.
yeah,
So
the world's always changing. The job that you're trying to get might not even exist in 3 years, you know?
yeah, I have a two-part question for you. So, what's a piece of advice that's underrated, and what's a piece of advice that's overrated? Yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
Let me
pulling the
go
double.
over. Yeah, let me go overrated first. Overrated is, I think the most overrated thing, like possibly that we see on the in all this content stuff is like the morning routine stuff. Like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
like when I first got into the self development, I was so into that, and I realized like
Yeah.
how kind of stupid that was. Like looking back. Yeah.
Like, look, I'm sure there are a ton of benefits to like the cold plunge and like sauna and like the red light, infrared, like all this stuff. But I think so many people get caught up. Like I even get caught up in it myself, like trying to like what's the best morning routine?
Yeah.
The best morning routine is one that enables you to have the best day possible and get the stuff done that you need to get done early in the day. So you have the rest of the day to kind of chill out if you
Yeah.
want to. And like I've tweeted about this a bunch of times, but like best morning routine is wake up, make your coffee, and work on the thing that you're passionate about. Like that's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Yeah. Just get to
Right.
work basically. Yeah.
Yeah, like don't
Yeah.
scroll on your phone. Maybe you'll go for like a morning walk just to get the juices flowing, but like yeah, wake up and do the work.
Hmm.
That's all it takes.
Yeah. Solid
So
advice. Yeah.
yeah, that's overrated, I guess, is morning routines. Underrated is that it's always going to take longer, like double the time than you think it's going to take in whatever you're
Mm.
doing. Like you think,
Yeah.
even for me, like, I'm doing all these daily videos. Maybe on day 101, it'll work because I've done 100 reps. You hear this number 100 being thrown around, but like it's probably going to take a lot longer than that in reality. And I think people don't realize how long things are going to take. Even editing a video always takes way longer than you think it's going to take. So budget more time for yourself would be
Yeah.
the advice for that.
Yeah. I think it was like Bill Gates who said like we often like uh overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in 10. So if we
Yeah,
just I think the mantra is like if you stick around and don't give up, just keep on doing it, eventually you're going to win. You just have to be patient about the game that you're playing. And that's
exactly.
so freaking hard to actually like execute on a day-to-day basis. Because
100%. Yeah. There's
yeah,
so
'cause-
many factors that go into it, right? Like
Mhm.
uh it's and like big life events happen, like you move to a new city or like you get a job and
Yeah,
it's tough to like hammer one thing for that long.
yeah. It's like we see like the exponential graph. Suddenly people like stop at the like the plateau where before anything happens, and but those who like wait and continue doing it for long enough, they see that skyrocketing. So you just gotta keep playing on. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. All right, let's end with one final question, and I always end it with every single episode, which is, what's one piece of advice or a message you tell your 18 or 19-year-old self?
Oh, I would say to do those things that you know you want to pursue, even if, excuse me, even if they might seem out of reach or they're not what you do, because once you start doing them, they then are what you do. Like
Mm,
I think for me personally, I put myself in a box like I'm the soccer player, I'm like decent at school, but I don't think I can do, I don't know, be a YouTuber, let's say. But like once you start doing it, then you are a YouTuber, You just
yeah.
like taking that first step is the hardest one, but um I think that's something that I wish I would have learned sooner is once you take the first step, it gets a lot easier and you just can't put yourself into a box.
Yeah. Awesome advice. Yeah. Where can people find what you're up to? I know you have a lot of different social networks out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, everything on social media is at I am Ryan Ward. Um, my website, I'm changing the domain soon, but right now it's ryan-ward.mykajabi.com. Um, but yeah, at I am Ryan Ward is the best place to find me.
Awesome. Dude, dude, so happy to have you here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This is great. It was good to connect again too. Yeah, wishing you all the best in your exploratory phase as well.